Welcome to the Mompreneur Life Remix podcast, where you will learn how to remix your mompreneur life so that you can win at work without losing yourself in the process. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I am your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business and elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl and hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Mompreneur Life Remix podcast. Let's do this. Hey friends, summer's coming, and just like we do some preparations for summer with maybe working out a little bit more, maybe eating a little cleaner to get our bodies ready for summer, I want to help you get your business ready for summer. So last week, I held a virtual workshop called the Summer Ready Success Workshop, and I had such great feedback from this, and maybe you missed it. And so I wanted to let you know that I have the replay up for you to go and watch, go and learn how to have balance with your family, with your self-care, with your just busy summer schedule, have strategies to boost your productivity and maximize your summer success. So you want to go to martinewilliams.com/summer. And this is where you're going to be able to watch the virtual training. You have a guide that goes along with it to help you actually implement the strategies that you learn. So again, go to martinewilliams.com/summer and let's get you summer ready for success. Happy Thursday, friends. Mixing things up a little bit today for today's episode. Have you found yourself with boxes and boxes and boxes of photos? Or maybe they're like your phone is overloaded with all of these photos and no one is seeing them, including you. And it's just this thing that's weighing on your mind. It's been weighing on your mind that you want to get organized or create some type of book with those. So today's guest is going to help us with this. And I'm really excited to have Cathi Nelson come on the show today, and we talk life, we talk business, and we talk about this thing that I know because it's something that I struggle with as well. And I'm not a scrapbooker. Like that's, y'all know me. That's just not what feels like joyful to me. So I'm excited to have this episode and kind of give you some things to think about, some things to do, just to get started with this. Or if you just want to outsource the whole thing, she's going to tell you how to do that too. So meet Cathi Nelson, who transformed her hobby of organizing photos for family and friends into a full-time business in 2009. Soon she was helping others learn how to become professional photo organizers, eventually creating an association for photo organizers in 2011. Today, the Photo Managers boast over 700 members worldwide, ranging from part-timers to those enjoying a second act career to some 6 and even 7-figure businesses. So these are people who do this for a living. The Photo Managers offers courses for hobbyists, a certification program for professional photo managers. Maybe you eat this stuff up and you want to get certified in it, and assistance to companies in creating backups and workflows for their images. So Cathi is also the author of 2 books, Photo Organizing Made Easy, Going from Overwhelmed to Overjoyed, yes, 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 and a business roadmap for professional photo organizers. So you're going to love this episode. I really enjoyed talking with Cathi, and I hope this will help you to get this thing that's weighing on your mind, all your photos, and help you to just get started. All right, let's do this. Well, hey friends, welcome back to the Mompreneur Life Remix podcast. I'm excited today for another Turquoise Talk guest. You know, I love bringing on other mompreneurs to share their journey, share some helpful information and tips with you. And today we have Cathi Nelson. So thank you so much, Cathi, for coming on the show today to talk about something we've not ever talked about here on the podcast. I'm really excited to dive in to hear more about your story and what you do.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, you know, how you became a mompreneur. I know there's probably lots of stories within there, and we can dive into some of it. But for those who don't know you, know your family, kind of know how you became a mompreneur, I think they would find that valuable.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, it goes back a long way. When if I start way back, when I was in my early 30s and I became a mom for the first time through adoption, I left my full-time career in advertising and marketing because there just was no time and I really wanted time, but I needed to make money. So I discovered I had not got involved in any direct sales companies in those days, but I discovered scrapbooking because I wanted to create a life book for my son to tell him how he joined our family. So this would have been in the 90s when scrapbooking
Yeah. Oh,
started.
yeah.
Now it's, so I discovered a company called Creative Memories, which many may remember, may not. And I spent many years, I think, really learning how to be an entrepreneur in that environment because
Hmm.
people were unfamiliar with it, especially in the Northeast. I live in Connecticut, but I was really passionate about the storytelling piece, not the creative things. And the entrepreneur part of me, I had 1,800 people at the Connecticut Convention Center scrapbooking for a weekend at one point where, I always saw it more as a business than just as a hobby.
Yeah.
And so when people stopped printing photos because we
Yeah.
switched to digital, I called it my incredibly shrinking paycheck because we went
Yes.
from an analog world to digital. And I was an early adapter then to digital technology. And I would teach classes and people would come to me with baggies of memory cards and say, can you teach me how to email this photo? And can you teach me how to get my photos from my memory card? This is before the iPhone.
Hmm.
And then a friend said to me, what do you charge per hour to do that? And I was like, well, typical as many women, right? I don't charge anything per hour.
It's
And
free.
and the story goes from there and how I discovered, started an entirely new business. There was no such thing as professional photo managers in the world. When I started this, I was the first, and I've grown it into a profession with hundreds of members all over the world. So it is a long entrepreneurial journey, but I got started, I think, from that first time wanting more time and flexibility with my family.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember creative memories. And I honestly, when people say the word scrapbooking, like it would make me break out in hives because it did just seem like it just wasn't something that I was super interested in at the time. But now that I'm older, my kids are older, and I'm thinking like I see all these photos that I have of them, like physical photos, like you said, we don't see a lot of those anymore. It's all on your phone. But I remember like I would have paid you 100% to just take the
Yeah.
photos and help
I
me
had,
capture it, right? Because just
right.
the thought of having to, because of the decision fatigue that I get around, well, what the photo and then the creativeness, all of that just seemed really, really overwhelming for me. So I know that I understand the moms that were like, can you just do this for me and help
Well,
me with this?
yeah, absolutely. And when I got to her house, the story goes on that she not only had photos on a memory card that she didn't know how to get, but her husband was a Mac user, she was a PC user, but she had inherited boxes of photos from her parents who had just passed away.
Oh, yeah.
One of
Yeah.
four adult kids, and her kids were straddling the Adelong digital world. And she said, Cathi, oh, can you make an album for me? And my dad, with his gardens, and she wanted me to digitize all those photos. And she said, I don't care how long it takes, but I guarantee you there's hundreds of other Marias just like me out there who'd pay somebody to
Yeah.
do this. And so I had no idea when I started that not only would people come to me with photos, but then it was old home movies and outdated digital
Mhm.
formats. And then it was letters from the Civil War, and it was keepsake items and memorabilia. So I quickly realized, right, there was a huge opportunity and people needed help with all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to get into the photos piece for sure, a little bit more into that. Cause I know there's a lot of moms who are listening and they are like, they have, I mean, I'm just thinking in my office right now, I have photos from my father-in-law who like old VHS videos. I have videos like when my first son was born, that was 19 years ago. So that was on a camp, like all of those
Yeah.
things. And they're just sitting in a box, and
Right.
it just seems like the digital age, everything just keeps changing so fast that like, what do we do now? How do you get a VHS to something that you don't even do a CD anymore? I don't even know.
No.
We'll get into that in just a few minutes, but there has to be a really strong why, right? That has driven your success because as entrepreneurs, there's ups and there's downs, there's upside down moments. There's like, is this going to work? People really want this? So I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit about like the deeper reason why you saw the opportunity, but there's something that keeps you showing up as things are ever changing, right, in the market.
Yeah, 100%. I think the why is I always say, I believe that we are a people of stories, that we've been wired to tell stories as human
Hmm.
beings, that from the beginning of time, we said, we did oral traditions, and that when cameras were placed in our hands, we became visual storytellers. And of course, we had no
Yeah.
idea the iPhone or the phone, the phone would become a point and shoot camera, even when I started my business. But the why that keeps me motivated is that I really believe everybody has a story to tell, but we don't want to
Mm.
tell all. We can't tell it all, and we have way too much we want to curate the photos and the videos and that tell the stories that matter. And
Yeah.
it's, at the end of life, at key moments in life, weddings, bar mitzvahs, birthdays, those are the times when the photos and the stories and the videos are people want them. Or if there's a, weather extreme event, which there's certainly plenty of those today, what's the one thing people are most devastated that they've lost? So my
Mhm.
why is that, along with helping women in particular. We have many men now that are also do this professionally. So it's not only women anymore by
Yeah.
stretch.
Yeah.
But I've been really passionate about supporting women entrepreneurs find meaningful work,
Mm.
charging what they're knowing their value, charging for their time, and helping others. The people that come to us that are passionate about helping people they're passionate about other people. They want to know your story. They want to know about your family, about your father-in-law's photos. I mean, I'd ask you, tell me about your father-in-law, and that
Yeah.
so the business is really moving for a lot of people. So it's both of those things that keep me motivated.
Yeah. I cannot imagine the amount of stories that you have heard over the
Oh,
years and just the emotion wrapped. Like I'm just sitting here thinking about you even asking me those questions, just the emotions. It's almost like a healing process too for people, especially coming off of a loss, right? Or coming off of a devastation like we've had with, hurricanes. I'm in South Carolina, so we've had, all kinds of hurricanes and storms around here. And it is the photos, that is the one thing that people wish they still had, in those moments. And like that's the one thing they want to protect when there is, devastation coming their way. So I can't imagine the stories that you hear and the healing that you help other people do. So I love the work that you're doing.
I always say it's meaningful work. Our members that are all individual business owners, so they have their own business identities, but they're part of the association. Yeah, that's what they talk about. It's the one job that your client cries when you
Yeah.
are in the organized photo collection, or when you hear your parents' voice for like those videos you're talking about, when suddenly because nobody has seen those, right? And when you
Yeah.
converted to a movie file and you can watch it on your phone now, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's deeply moving. And
Yeah.
technology, I didn't know I would be really this deeply involved in technology as I am, but we've become very much. I visually thought of myself as the geek out squad, women helping women with technology,
Yeah.
because women get really intimidated by nature. I think we tend to say, oh, I messed this up, or there's some magic button with my photos that everybody else pushed, but I didn't. And why are my photos a mess? Because nobody else's are. But it's not the case. And so as women, we interact with a lot of technology companies because there's a lot of technology being created to solve these problems, but you are busy. You're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
there in your office thinking, oh, who's created the greatest app today for me to manage my photos? And that's where we come
Right.
in and kind of be the bridge between to tell you and help you understand what's available and make it simpler for you.
Yeah. Well, and even as we may not be searching or Googling that, we are thinking about it. I think most moms, they're on their phone all the time, right? And you look at your phone and you realize I have 3,000 photos on my phone, or I have these videos of my father-in-law and his family, and probably my husband and his siblings on there that they haven't seen or I haven't seen in years, And so I do think it is a stressor sometimes, and it is weighing on our minds. So I love that there's just this go between, right, and helping them solve that problem. So just some tactical things, like it seems pretty obvious when I say why do people need to organize their photos, but I'd love just from your professional viewpoint of it, because I think we know we should, but it's also like what's the
Well,
the
I
biggest
always tell
piece of
people,
it?
right, organizing photos is like watching paint dry. I mean, there's nothing you're excited about organizing photos at all. Even the people that do it, we don't do it. The organization is a means to an end. It
Yeah.
really is. It's strictly a means to end. And so, what are some of the motivating factors as a mom? I think is helping your kid. We know that knowing your family history builds self-esteem in children. There's lots of
Mm.
research out that. So, what if you could create a photo book or a video montage or something for your child before they go off to college? You mentioned you have a daughter or son, maybe getting ready to go.
Son. Yep. Yep.
Son,
He's there now. It's a freshman. He's a freshman this year.
right. So, that's the key moment in lifetimes when you go back, when they're little and growing up and they're
Mhm.
maybe their school years and things like that, so that he has something that it's, you've curated. It's really about curation more than it is about organizing, because we
Mhm.
take so many photos now, it'd be impossible to organize them all. But what we want to do is curate the stories. So you want to decide what is the story that you want to tell. And
Mm.
then how do you tell that story using those photos is really hopefully a lot more fun and easier than to think about. I
Yeah.
also think a lot about right now is how I have my nephew has so I have a couple grand nieces and nephews, and no grandkids of my own yet, but hopefully soon, uh, that we don't want to keep handing kids screens. Like, we know that screen time is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? There's no mystery anymore about that. So when we take photos, kids love looking at photos on your phone, little ones like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, right? They want to take your phone away.
Yeah.
Creating an ABC book or creating a book of these are the important people in your life, like going back to the old fashioned way of actually creating, that's kind of the goal behind it more than it is. Does that make sense? I hope that
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
from mom's not like, you can't get all those photos organized. Never going to happen.
Right. Right. You're setting yourself up for failure trying to do that. It's just capturing, like you said, what's the story that you want those photos to tell for you and for anyone, that comes into your home and sees, like we used to do when we would do Disney, we would just do the little photo books, right? That was when I think digital books started coming into play. And I still look at those and they still look at those photos
Right.
and just, my comments underneath that was like my form of scrapbooking back then, because I'm like, I know I'm not going to cut paper out. I'm just not going to, that's not me, but I will take a photo and put it in a template that, is already created for me. And we did that for years and years for our Disney trips. And it's still something they look at today. And
And the reason I always tell people to think about, this is another thing I like to help people break through. There's a lot of rules we have in our head. So I'm going to guess, listening, right, that some of the rules are, one is you have to organize chronologically. Another is you can't throw photos away. There's like all these kind of mental blocks.
That's a big one. I can't throw it away.
I do a whole thing on, yes, you can. It's called the ABCs of photo organizing. It was an acronym I created years ago. And the C is yes, you can throw photos away. So that's an important piece of it, that thinking about themes, right? So the fact that you went to Disney a lot tells me already a lot about your family. Obviously that you like tradition, you like the magic of Disney, probably. I'm guessing maybe you went with other family members, or
sometimes we did. Yeah.
You must have planned the date and the time, and your kids remember that, right? And they might recreate that for their children someday. So that's the theme that's one theme of many of your life, I'm sure, that you've already done some really great work on with your photos.
Yeah. Tradition is big. It's definitely, there's certain things that I do want to pass down, that were either passed down to me, or new traditions that we've started as a family that my boys will pass down. And so that's a really, really good point. So you mentioned the ABCs. Tell us a little bit more about the ABCs. So for someone who's listening and they're like, okay, yeah, this is something I really want to try to investigate in. And I'm sure they're going to be running to your website because they're like, you know what, I'd rather just pay someone or connect with someone who can do it for me.
Yeah. But we call it the DIY audience too. We communicate with both. We communicate with the DIY audience who want to do it themselves, or we say we can do it with you, do it for you, or do it alongside you. So but the ABCs is really an easy acronym. A is when you're looking even through your camera roll. And there's some great apps now that there's one called Ollie that we love, but A is an album worthy, archival worthy photo, right? You just decide it's an A. And if you're looking at printed photos, that goes in your A pile. The B is, there's always those ones you can't decide, I don't know. You can't bring yourself to get rid of it, but it's kind of a secondary photo. So that goes back in the box, I say, or you can, put it in you don't maybe favor it in an album if you're doing digital. And I always joke, put a note on the box if it's literally in a box, and says, if I pass away and you inherit this box, you may throw these photos away. So many people inherit boxes of photos. I have an aunt, my Auntie Rose, I call her, she was in her early 90s, and she promised me, I've been doing this for years, that there were no more photos of anybody in the family who passed away. What did I get? A box of photos that I have not thrown away, because I know it's her and my dad and my uncle and everybody, but I don't know any other details. And I can't, it's like Auntie Rose, that guilt, right? And then C, yes, you can throw photos away. And we really suggest or delete scenery shots, blurry shots, poorly composed, because if it doesn't have the S, A, B, C, S, if it doesn't tell a story, you don't need to keep it.
Yeah.
A lot of scenery shots, or I know like the Princess Castle in Disney or whatever, like maybe one or two castle, but you don't need one every year of the castle, right? It's more the enjoyment of watching the kids grow and change, and their look on their faces and the things that they might have been interested in, each year changed, right? So that's the ABCs of photo organizing. And it really can help people, I think, break through some of those barriers.
Yeah. You mentioned the app earlier. What are some of your favorite apps? Like, I'm thinking about, how can we proactively organize, right, our photos for the day when we're ready to call you or do it ourselves or whatever? Like, what is a simple process that you think people should follow, either to get proactive about it? Or now they're looking at their phone like me and I have thousands of photos. How can I organize that in a way?
So there's multiple answers to that question, which is why
Okay.
it's so complex. So if there was
Right.
one,
Yeah.
but I'll give you a high level kind of answer a little bit based on what your goals are. There's a great photo organizing software program that we are using more and more, and it's called Mylio, Mylio. My
Okay.
life is organized. My life is anyway, and it will pull in all your photos from all your devices onto an external hard drive or onto your desktop, onto an external hard drive. It's not cloud based. It uses the cloud to sync photos back and forth, but you don't have to be paying to have your photos in the cloud. That's a great program to get all your photos, and it has a really cool calendar view, and it has a really interesting map view, and it has all the artificial intelligence built into that. That's one. But you're just not ready to even get that far. And if you're on an iPhone, Ollie, Ollie is an app just for the iPhone. They haven't brought it out for Android yet. And they kind of gamified it. It's this really cute octopus, and it starts to memorize. It picks up your photos and stuff, and it'll suggest what they think are the favorite of your best photos. But it also, you agree with it, and the more you agree with it, the more it memorizes what you're telling. It won't.
Okay. Yeah.
It'll put them in the trash if you want, but they won't delete it unless you give it permission. But it's out of sight, out of mind, and it does music and games. My husband got really into it one day too. It's really smart because when you're at the grocery store in line, you might want to pull that out and start using Ollie on your phone. And there's a lot of additional technology besides that
Yeah.
that you can do really amazing. There's another really great app called Artifact, started by two. You want to interview some really interesting women. I can make introduction to some really interesting women entrepreneurs. These two women both work for the CIA, and now they're moms.
Wow.
They're mompreneurs. They're really making a big headway in the senior tech market, it's called. But Artifact, it allows you to photograph the items that you care most about in your home, and then tell the story verbally, or so your mom, say you're going with your parents' home because they're downsized and they don't know how to get rid of. We know that there's so much material that needs to be distributed to the next generation, and it's crazy how much there is. So
Yeah.
this amazing app that allows you to tell the story about the items that you care about, your parents and things, and then share that with the next generation. And so it's just really interesting technology they're using for that.
Yeah. Hey, friend, can I give you permission today? Like, for real, your own permission slip. Permission to get clear, to cut out the noise, mostly the noise that is going on around in your own mind, in your own head. It's just swirling. And you're asking yourself questions like, why am I stuck? Why am I frustrated? Why am I not making progress on my goals? I want to invite you to a free clarity call with me where we're going to dive in and we're going to identify what are the three main issues that are keeping you stuck. Number two, what are the mindsets around those issues that are actually keeping you from solving for those issues? It's not our skill sets, it's our mindsets that keep us stuck and hold us back. And then number three, identifying what are your next steps. We all have a next step, and we have 100% responsibility for those next steps. Your only next step right now is to go to the show notes and book your free clarity call so that we can work through this. I'm believing in you, and I cannot wait to see you on our clarity call. So I love this because I know people are going to be going there right now. And we'll put links to all of these things that she's talking about in the show notes for everyone. But like, I'm thinking about my own computer. So I have like Shutterfly on my phone. I have my album on my phone, and then I have Dropbox, and then I have some saved on the hard drive. And so it's really just the process of just getting started, right? Like, don't get overwhelmed by all the things. You just have to get started somewhere, right? And I love that you said it's based on your goal. Like, what's your goal, right? And if you are in the grocery store line, it's kind of like, don't have the all or nothing mentality. If I can't go through all my photos today and get them all organized and all by calendar and all the things you're saying, then I'm just not going to do it at all. And it's just going to keep piling up. So do a little bit, start somewhere, right?
Another way I help people think, you didn't take all those photos in a weekend. You're not going to,
yes.
right? And you're going to keep taking photos. So
right.
it's a never ending battle in some ways, but it's like, but the goal again, the other way that we have the 5 steps also of photo organizing, which is a little different than the ABCs, but the first is know your goal. The second is to take inventory, know what you have. Like you just already mentioned off the top of your head, Dropbox. That would be very common. Dropbox, Google Photos, Facebook, Shutterfly, Costco, maybe when you were ordering photos from Costco, Walgreens,
Right.
Amazon photos, right? Apple, you're an iCloud, your husband's an Android user, you're an Apple user, but we know that and then you have the boxes of photos, but if you just, and we have worksheets that are free download on our website, but we
Okay.
take inventory just so you even know. And then the third step is the curation, making those decisions and deciding what you want to keep. The good news is with digital, we believe you should bring we call it your digital photo organizing hub. You should eventually bring all those photos into one location on your computer,
Hmm.
on an external hard drive. And deduplication software today will actually identify all the duplicates that you've already, because you probably put them in Dropbox and you have them, the same photos multiple times. Our
Probably.
members
I'm
will
so afraid of losing them. I want them everywhere.
Yes, every human does it. Believe me. I mean, our members on our private Facebook group will do. I got a client today. I got him from 125,000 digital photos down to 35,000 because
Ooh,
yeah, that would be
man,
not unusual. So all of you feel guilty out there. It's common, and
common.
there is technology to get rid of that, and that makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Just get started. I always say, don't overcomplicate it. Just get started. What's your next step? Everybody has a next step,
Yeah.
and 100% responsibility for that next step. So just what's yours? Maybe it's going on your website and, downloading some of the free resources. Maybe it's just time to invest. You've been thinking and talking about it and you haven't been doing it. So maybe it's just time to, get Cathi or someone on her
I will
team to.
confess. The shoemaker has no shoes. So here we go. Got married in September, but I knew last December or January when they got engaged that I needed to hire, that I was never going to do it. I just don't have time. I needed to scan those scrapbooks. I wanted to create the video montage of when he was a
Mhm.
little baby and growing up. And then I need to get all her family photos of when she was little and the music and then the meeting and the whole thing. Everybody cried. So I hired one of our members to do that for me. And
Yeah.
it was the best decision I made. So
Yeah.
it just takes time, right? And I knew
Yeah.
it had a goal. It was not unusual. Like I was motivated because there was a reason that I needed to get that done.
Yeah. Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit, just to kind of the entrepreneur business side, what would you say is the best piece of business advice you've received along your journey?
Hmm. You think I'm stumped by that one piece. I'm sorry.
It's hard because I'm sure you've received a lot.
I have a lot of,
Yeah, a lot of
I think
advice. So,
the advice I would give that I'm not sure if other people is
hey,
that,
that's okay.
yeah, is to just get up every day and do one thing really well.
Mm,
I knew I was onto something. I didn't know I was going to create an association model. And this was long before there were membership communities when I started my business. When
hmm.
people started asking me to teach them how to do what I was doing, I was
Right.
stuck. I don't know how to do that. What does that mean? What do I charge? The whole thing was so confusing. And I just couldn't it took me a long time to really get my arms around what it should be. And I
Hmm.
remember I would say, just get up. And I still come in every day, kind of like, what's if I'm going to do anything today, I'm just going to do one thing really well because it's
Yeah.
overwhelming. Otherwise, I have a million ideas and my brain hurts. I joke, my brain hurts every day.
Yes, I know. It's a special breed being an entrepreneur. It really is, because you're always on. There are so many times I'm sure you have felt this way where it's like, you know what? It would be easier for me to go punch a clock somewhere because then you can just shut your brain off. But as an entrepreneur, it's always running. I mean, sometimes it wakes you up in the middle of the night, right? With some ideas or some worries or some thoughts. And so I definitely think deciding like what is that one thing that you want to do well today, because there's always going to be more ideas to implement, one more email to check, one more phone call to make, one more load of laundry to do if you're trying to do that along with your business, if you're a stay-at-home work mom. So what can you do really well today so that you leave your office or
Yeah.
your home and you feel proud of yourself? There's so many mompreneurs that because they don't have a really clear why, or they don't really have that mentality of what can I do one thing well, they leave their office and they feel so defeated. Like, I didn't do anything today. Like, I worked really hard today, but what did I actually do? What did I complete? And so I love that you just simplified that down.
I still struggle with this one a lot, but knowing the difference between busy and what's really,
Mm,
really matters. Like I realized that even this far into my business, I can feel really busy all day, but it doesn't mean I'm moving my business forward. So I've been working really hard on
yeah.
making the decisions that, because it's the path of least resistance. Sometimes I can sit here all day and answer emails, literally all day. I can
Oh, yeah.
the entire day. And did that really, I could leave feeling exhausted. I worked hard all day, but was that really the best use of my time today? Probably
Yeah.
not. The harder things would be following up with that company that, I want
Hmm.
to connect with and partner with, but I get imposter syndrome. Like, well, do they really want to talk to me?
Right.
And the day that I got over that a little bit, it was just recently. Amazon Photos, the director of product development for Amazon Photos, sent me an email. That was like it was like, holy smokes, we're on.
Right. Yeah.
If we're on Amazon Photos radar screen,
Yeah.
pretty amazing. And it was kind of a good wake up call. Like, Cathi, don't just answer emails all day. Like, what do I
Yeah.
say on Photos when they email me? Like, it was almost like I
Yeah.
couldn't respond at first.
Yeah. Yeah, I find a lot of time I'll ask myself the question, am I being busy or am I being in business? And
Mhm.
usually when I'm being busy, I'm avoiding, kind of like what you're saying, like I'm avoiding some of the things that I know I need to be doing that would make the biggest return on the time invested, but imposter syndrome is showing up, right? Or, I don't have it perfectly pitched or whatever it is. There's always something, but you're trying to avoid, the thing that really needs to get done for whatever reason. So thank you for sharing. That's a really good reminder. I know two of your overriding principles are rising tide lifts all boats, and we are collaborative, not competitive. So tell us a little bit about, because I love those, why you developed those principles as the foundation for the photo managers.
Yeah. Early on, I knew that the idea that it was a new business. Nobody had heard of professional photo organizers when we
Yeah.
started. They still haven't for the most part, but and so the idea was we're not competing with each other, because these are the people that are members of my community are all small business owners with their own unique brand and identity. I didn't want to franchise.
Okay.
I made a conscious decision to be a big tent was my concept, right? There's room under our tent for everybody. Because coming out of
Hmm.
the sales model, that tend to be very mono, they only,
Yep.
you really only can talk about the one that you
Yep.
product. And I kind of fell into that. And as I matured in my business knowledge, I realized that was not very healthy. And it didn't, and I think they got in trouble themselves with not looking for competition, not seeing changes coming in the industry. And I just didn't want to be that person. So I
Yeah.
felt like starting from the top down is so our members all comment about everybody helps everybody because we're all learning together at the same time.
Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
understand how to convert a VCR tape better than Mary does in Oklahoma, there's no reason why you shouldn't help her. So the idea and so we're collaborative, not competitive, that we share freely of our resources with each other. But I also am very conscious and have always set a tone that we compensate members well for. So I compensate my conference speakers, I compensate our webinar providers, because I feel like as women, a lot of people will do it for free.
Yeah.
And I was in that kind of mindset myself when I first started. And so I really also want to walk the walk that if I'm asking you to provide like a training webinar for the community, I want to compensate you because your time is valuable.
Hmm.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
model from the top down, so that when you go
Yeah.
out and when your best friend says, "Oh, you organize my photos," you don't say, "Yeah, but I'm not going to charge you because you're my best friend," which I did. I've done all of these things myself.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, I love that. And I noticed the sign behind you, everything is figure outable. I love that book. I have said so many things from that book over the years. And so tell me a little bit about that quote for you.
I have that one, and then also "It's okay to be brave and afraid at the same time," which is
Yes.
Hey Brown.
Hmm.
Those are my two other favorite sayings. Yeah, it's all figure outable. I think we always have to, if we feel stumped, especially with technology, CRMs, my spreadsheet, reading my financials, which I never feel like I know what I'm doing. I've learned just slow down, take a breath.
Hmm.
My printer wouldn't work today. I had to slow down, take a breath,
Yeah.
think through, and I was able to figure it out. And I think, especially for women, again, as well, there's a tendency, I think, to kind of shut down or almost again blame ourselves, like I'm not smart enough, or I don't know
Right.
what I'm doing, or technology is really hard. And
Hmm.
it isn't. I mean, it is, but it's figure outable. So
Yeah. Yeah. Learning to trust yourself,
mhm.
right? Like the answer can be within inside you if you just, like you said, pause long enough and just think, okay. And because then when you figure it out, you're just so much more empowered, right? You're like, oh, okay. Well, then the next problem that comes, I can figure that out too. That doesn't mean we don't ask for help when we need the help. But I do think like sometimes just pausing and letting your own brain work and let your own gifts and unique talents that you have be present in that moment to try to figure it out. And then if you can't, then well, someone else can help you. It's still figure outable. You just need a little help, right? To do that.
And maybe it's not right. And it's not that you're not smart enough or you're not,
Right.
something I always learned that I used early on when I try to figure out how to charge for what I was doing for people is I remember those were the days when if your hard drives would crash, you'd call the computer repair guy in your community. I don't know what they
Hmm.
are. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem to happen as much anymore, but I remember the guy coming over, and he was like, "Hey, it's $125 an hour," which was like a crazy amount of money for me. And he sat
Yeah.
down at my computer and then he called the tech support of the company of trying to reinstall some software or something. And he waited on hold and they walked him through it. Then he charged me and he left. He never apologized. And it was just like a real eye opener for me. I thought, wow, I was happy to let him be on the phone. I didn't want to be on that phone walking through the
Right.
because I didn't know enough, but it helped me
Right.
realize, okay, it's he figured it out it was okay that he figured it out and charged me for figuring it out. So it's okay to charge people for information that you're taking the time to learn,
Right.
right? Not
Yeah.
feel that like imposter syndrome that I shouldn't charge for my time. I think that's a big
Yeah.
issue for a lot of entrepreneurs too, is what is the value I'm bringing to this,
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the world that I care
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it as I'm helping them take sometimes the shorter route. I've learned by mistake and I've learned by personal investment of my time and my resources and reading the books, going to the conferences or whatever. And some people either they just don't have the time to go and do those things, but they still want the result. And so I can help provide that for them and help them either make some shortcuts or make the journey a little less bumpy because I've been through the bumps. I've been through the
You're paying.
potholes.
I'm a big believer in coaches. I've had a number of different coaches over the years. I had
Yeah.
a call after this call with my current coach at different levels. I've needed different people to help me with
Yeah.
different, and it
Yes.
really made a huge difference because I can get blinders on. I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yep.
help me with me. I mean, I'm giving a lot of my time to a certain company without. She finally said, "Why aren't you charging a consultant fee?" I was like, "Huh? I could charge." Oh,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I've been
It
sitting in this.
happens to all of us. I'm laughing because I totally get it. And I know someone else who's listening is like, oh my gosh, she's absolutely right. We've
And then
all fallen into that.
I asked him, I said, "Hey, this is outside of the scope of our sponsorship. I'm spending," he was like immediate, like, "Yeah, I agree. How about 10 hour? What's your hourly fee? And how about 10
Yeah.
hours a month? I'll put it in." And then now I'm kicking myself. I'm like, shoot, I should have said more than what I did because he said yes so
Yeah.
fast. But
Yeah.
I needed a coach to point that out. Now it seems so obvious to me and I can point it out to other people, but it was
Hmm.
not obvious to me.
Yeah. 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 And I'm a firm believer in coaches, not because I am one, but because I've had them in my life. Really, ever since I've been an entrepreneur, I've had a coach of some sort, like you said, for different stages and different levels and things I was working through. And I think as women, we kind of have this pressure we put on ourselves to just be able to figure it out, which we will, but the pressure to do it all alone, right? And when you're an entrepreneur, it's hard to be a solopreneur. It makes it harder when you're trying to figure it out and you don't have the support that you need. Someone who's maybe been just two steps even ahead of you can help you, can grab your arm and say, hey, we're going to go this way. Or, hey, did you ever think about they should be paying you a consulting fee? Like just those little things can make the biggest difference along your journey. So I'm a firm believer in having a coach or a mentor or just that somebody, accountability partner, a peer buddy,
Yeah,
something.
set up for our members when they join. We have a mentoring program that's free, and we also have an
Yeah.
accountability. We match people for accountability partners, and it's made those that join that and really stay with that. It's magical what happens to their business
Yeah.
just by having somebody else that you can check in, and they don't even have to be in the same business. Like, you can be completely unrelated businesses,
Right.
but maybe if you had that day where you just answered emails, maybe that person can say, "Well, is that the best use of your time?" Maybe that's all you need somebody to ask you, not your husband or
Yep.
your sister or your mother, but
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
fellow entrepreneur who understands what it's like to ask you that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you mentioned getting the email from Amazon, and I know you have, had some partnerships with some bigger companies, and there may be someone who's listening right now who that's one of their goals this year is to kind of like I'm in the podcast world, of course, and I am looking to be on other podcasts and to make some connections with other businesses and corporations with the coaching that I do. So what advice would you have for someone who's listening, who's wanting to kind of
Mm.
maybe open those doors or those opportunities for partnerships?
That's been something I focused on early on, and it's made a so these are a couple things. One is I have invested in showing up at conferences where I'll get an exhibitor table or a booth. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm there to meet the other exhibitors. I'm not there because I think the community themselves necessarily is going to purchase
Right.
a book or, when I sold my book. but I make a point to go around and meet people that are in similar business models and then I am. And that's made a huge difference. Get their business cards, connect with them on LinkedIn, and look for win-wins. Look for, obviously you're always looking for the win for both.
Yeah.
I call it riding on somebody else's coattails. So people need content today. They're desperate for content, right? Because we're in a content world. So here's an example of a company. They're called PhotoMine. They're a digital photo app company. I'm sure some of your members use them. They have a million users. They're out of Israel. I've gotten to know them over the years. I'm doing a series of free webinars for them to their email list because I'm bringing my, like the ABCs of photo organizing, creating a legacy photo book. But they give me, but they will email on my behalf. And then I get to have a lead magnet, so that's so I capture some of their audience. And so I've been building my list that way for years I bring the content or the value in exchange for them. These are, so I'm looking for companies with big reach
Right. Yeah.
And I'm cultivating those relationships. B&H Photo now, there's a lot of them. I'm almost busy with it. So that's, kind of looking for what are the ancillary companies and products that you can bring value to both groups with. So that's kind of been my key in that.
And outside of like being at their events, would you say like you just do some introductions through email? Do you ask like, do you know someone? Like, is it the old networking, right? It's just networking with people and building those relationships. Yeah.
I'm doing it long enough that it's surprising, but yeah, I think asking people, well, I did. I recently asked the two women that started Artifact. They're doing an amazing job in was very unaware of the senior tech market, legacy tech. It's huge. It's exploding in growth, right? Because every day, 10,000 people turn 65 for the next 6 years in the United States. It is a huge market. And there is a lot of companies that are doing a lot of interesting things to cultivate relationships with that audience. And so they're really, I said, Heather, could you, who should I be following on LinkedIn? Can you make any introductions? And she did. She sent me a list of some people from AARP and other things. My conference is coming up, so I'm going to wait till I have the mental I almost jumped on it. Like, this email. Right. But I thought, no, Cathi, wait. This is where I've gotten smarter. Wait until you have the bandwidth to follow up well and make the email introduction from her when I follow up with them. What is it that I'm leading with for them? Because they're going to be interested in what's in it for them. So
exactly.
That makes sense. So ask other people to make those introductions, but knowing what you're going to lead with before I jump at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also always just showing up in a place of service, like how can I serve them? And like you said, make it a win-win for both, because people's email inboxes are flooded these days. And if it just looks like something that you have pitched and said to every single person you emailed that day, and it wasn't like you even really knew about their company or listened to their podcast or anything, like I can totally tell when people pitch my podcast. And so I think just being authentic and how can you serve their audience and come from that service place, the doors will open. It may not be with that particular person, but they're going to remember that you came with the service mindset versus what's in it for me, right? Like, give me your audience. I want your audience.
And we talk about that too on a smaller scale. Like I'm talking big, because I'm an international organization, but for our members that are, say you're a new photo manager starting out in Connecticut, where I live in West Hartford, what would connect with other local photographers? They probably, they're meeting with clients who probably, if they value photos, because they're hiring you to somebody to take care of their, but they probably don't do the photo organizing piece. And maybe there's a way that you can bring your photo organizing clients to them. Maybe you could do a combined workshop, how to take better photos and how to organize your photos, right? Look for those businesses in your own community that can match with you in a way that isn't totally obvious, but then join forces, have coffee with each other and just say, hey, tell me more about your business. That just alone, if taking somebody out for coffee and say, I really am interested could you just tell me about your business? And who doesn't want to be asked a question, right? So,
right. Yeah. I love that. So as we wrap up, tell us just what's most exciting for you right now in the photo manager business or in your personal life. Like, what are you most excited about?
We're growing. I keep thinking that, which I'm really excited. I feel like we're right at the precipice of a whole nother level of awareness. And so this annual conference, that'll be next week in Columbus. We've already committed to San Diego in 2025. The level of companies and the number of people that are showing up is significant. So it's been if I ever write a third book, which I might, but it might be The Reluctant CEO, how I backed into this whole thing, and I'm more and more turning around. And so why not be the title? Because I'm more and more accepting it's less reluctance and more, I'm accepting it with joy and and being proud of what I've achieved. I tend to be a person who's always kind of been like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, well,
Yeah.
oh, you have 700 members. Yeah. I'm just, does that make sense? I'm trying to
Yeah.
step into my
Yeah.
own power a little bit more and realize, wow, this is something significant. And especially by getting Epson, recently reached out to me and their PR team want to work with me. And, the fact that these things are starting to happen, I'm like, okay, hang
Yeah.
on. This is what I've
Yeah.
wanted. Now it's almost here.
Right.
Okay, just hang
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. The word that came up for me, two words that came up while you were sharing that was persistence and resilience.
Yeah.
Like, you've been on a journey and you didn't really know all the things and how it was going to end up, but now you do, like you've had this clear vision and you see it coming to fruition and you've been resilient throughout this journey. And now it's getting ready to come to fruition. And I can't imagine what that feels like. And so congratulations to you for paving that way. There's so many people in your membership probably that have seen and been with you and walked this journey with you. And it's just really cool for people to see, wow, she's worked hard. She's been resilient. She's been persistent. She's stuck with her why and the real reasons why she started this, and the harvest is coming. And that's really, really exciting. So, well, I know everyone is going to be going to your website, but I'll put all the links in the show notes, but tell them where the best place to connect with either you or another photo manager to help them with their photos.
We are thephotomanagers.com. And if you want help with your photos, if you go to Find a Pro, they are certified photo managers. I started certification years ago. So they've been vetted. We've interviewed them. They've gone through, so you can trust that they had a strong code of ethics. So lots of people that would help you, but we also have resources. We have a photo manager in training, which is a 1 year, you get your own photos organized, deciding if you want to do this for a business program. We also have free emails and YouTube channel. We finally gotten on YouTube. We have one YouTube channel with a lot of content. So we put out a lot of content and a lot of free information. So there's lots of ways to connect with us. And I'd love to help people in whatever they need. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much. This was so awesome. I know, like I said, for the listeners, this is a little different episode, but when I saw you come through the email, I'm like, oh, this is a big problem. And we need to have this discussion. Yeah. And I love just talking business with you too. And I'm so excited for you and the harvest that's coming in your business. And thank you again for just being that inspiration to so many of us that are, still maybe in a valley moment, that the harvest is coming, the mountaintop is coming. Just stick with it, right?
Yes,
just stick with it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.